front waistband and facing, back waistband and facing, belt loops, 1 back patch pocket, and 2 side seam pockets. Starting with the serging, we're going to serge front and back legs, every single side except the waist. The waist will get enclosed in a waistband, so it does not matter. Now we're doing like preparatory work, like prepping our pieces. Oh! My mom left the zipper foot. Ah! Anyway, we're doing prep work. So we're gonna start with our back pieces. With one of them, we're gonna do the back dart. So I have marked my dart point. That's that little bit of chalk. That's where I want the dart to end. And then up here, see those are my little notches of where the dart starts. So I'm just making a stitch in the shape of a triangle to make my dart. So I'm gonna match my notches and fold my fabric so that the dart point is on the fold. So you can see a straight line from my notch to dart mark, and then see it moved away from the fabric there. So that's going to be my line. Back tap. And then we do it to the other one. There are my darts. So this is a ham. It's a round little guy, and he's called a ham. This is for pressing darts and curves, anything shapely. So we're gonna place it kind of like that, so that the larger part of the ham is where the dart ends, and then all the fabric is gonna go towards the center back. And the fabric goes towards center back because pressing anything will create this little lump, which is just where the fabric folds. What you want is for the folds to move out from the center. So if this were the front panel, they would be towards center front. This is the back, so it's going towards the back, center back. Ooh. Also, pressing as you're sewing, guys, game changer. I had to learn that. It's way nicer to press as you sew rather than at the end, and it creates a nicer end product. Still on our prepping, we're gonna make belt loops. I'm only gonna do 2, so this is more than enough fabric. The way we're gonna do it, which honestly would be smarter if I pressed this and then folded it, but I'm gonna fold either edge like a 3/8. This is also cotton, so with some pressure, it'll hold a fold. So I fold that side, flip it, fold the other. One more fold. And then this creates a really nice no raw edges belt loop. So we're gonna put it on that folded side, And we're gonna stitch like literally 1/8 of an inch top stitch. We're gonna go up the other side so that it's nice and even and cute. The same 1/8 of an inch. So I'm basically lining the edge of the fabric with the center of the toe of the foot. Yes, it's called a toe, and it's hilarious. See the 2 lines of stitching? So we're gonna go to the patch pocket. This, I'm gonna go from the top. So I'm gonna stitch the top hem first. It has 1 inch hem. I'm just stitching 1 inch seam allowance. 4 sides, since it has a pointed bottom, is gonna get 2 lines of stitching. So what I'm going to do now is this inner line of stitching, and the outer will hold it onto the pants themselves. And by pants I mean shorts. So we're going to do, I think, 3/8. So halfway between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. 3/8 of an inch. Stitching. There's no worry about whether or not the seam allowance will stay where it's supposed to be. Public service announcement. This is the point I think you should put any patch pocket, like a back patch pocket on, which I plan on putting, except I don't know where to mark, like where my placement of it should be, because I'm not 100% sure how these pants will fit and sit on me because I just altered it and I didn't do a mock-up or anything, and it didn't have a mark already, all of that. So if you know what you're doing, put the patch pocket on the back now. It's easier when it's mostly flat and there's not a ton of fabric you're messing around with. So I'm not doing that because I am dumb. So let's continue. Our last prep thing is the waistband. Most important thing, it needs fusible. So this is a piece of non-woven. Can you see it? See, I peeled it back a little bit. Medium weight fusible. I only needed a lightweight, but this is almost all I had in the cupboard. So this strengthens the outside layer of your waistband, and it's fusible, which means it has a glue on one side, so when you press it, it sticks to the fabric. I have a center back closure, so 2 pieces for the back with an extension for a hook and bar or something. So what I'm going to do is match right sides together on the side seams and stitch a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the side seams, because that's what I allowed myself. And then let's go over to the iron. Okay, we're gonna press a couple things. Our waistband, since it's shaped, I'm gonna do it on the hand. I don't think I really need to though. We'll press our little belt loop. Press the pocket. What we're gonna do now is pockets. The way I build pockets, everything is built on the front panel, on the front leg. So there's my pocket. Yes, it's flowers. There's a notch. There's a notch up there. That is my pocket opening between notches, and there is corresponding notches in the leg somewhere. I think I can see them hidden inside the serging, but the camera will not pick that up. Right sides together with the pocket open, because I have one piece for the pocket. You can like do two pieces and just seam up that side, but I don't want to. So I'm matching up my notches, and I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm gonna start. I can see my top notch there. I'll put it in line with the top notch. So my notch is there. I'm gonna put the needle in at the top of the notch. Stitch a couple stitches and back tack. And then I'm just gonna stitch straight down on my 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way to the bottom notch and back tack again. My thread is very hard to see. Okay, I can see it, but you guys can't. Anyway, I'm gonna snip in with my fabric scissors almost to the point of the where I ended or started my stitching. I don't want to quite get too far in because I don't want the fabric to like rip. And then the same at the bottom. If there's a little like fold there, you can see it stressing not being able to come out properly. You can see there's a little drag line there, so I'm going to go back in and snip it then. Yeah, better. Now with all the seam allowance towards the pocket bag from the top there, I'm going to do an edge stitch. I'm physically pulling my fabric like this, open that seam so there's no like weird fold in that seam line. And back at the iron, we're gonna press our little pocket. I'm gonna get this mostly flat. What we're doing is you need to pull out these little bits we clipped into. This is the seam allowance. Your pocket opening is where you're missing seam allowance. So this is also because it's on a hip curve, you need to pull out that center bit. And I want like a 1/16 of an inch, guys. The tiniest bit of the outside fabric rolling over. Because I don't actually want to see the yellow flower fabric on the outside. So, woo! Hi. I'm pulling this out a little bit, keeping that little rolled edge, and I'm going to press the new seam to make it all stay. Our nice little pocket opening. So now we're just going to fold this over, and guys, hard part is done. We just need to close this and we got a pocket bag. We're gonna go back to the serger. So over here at the serger, since this edge is folded, guys, we don't gotta touch it. Isn't that great? We need to serge this bottom edge. I think I'm gonna curve out this corner and curve out that corner so lint doesn't get caught in the corner so easily. Literally, that's the reason. Bottom soiged. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna line it back up. I don't know why the top's uneven, don't look at that. What I should have done is not serge the side seam. Oops. So we're gonna double serge it. I'm gonna serge all the way down, serging the pocket bag only the pocket opening. And this will hold the entire bag onto the side seam as we sew. So let's serge. And because I already serged this, I'm just gonna run it off at the bottom of the pocket bag. Here's our pocket bag fully attached. Let's have a little look, guys. So we did our pocket. I like to work simultaneously on both legs, so I have both done. Our two front panels. See our little pocket opening. Ooh. Such a bad angle to show you the pocket working, but... So let's move on. We're actually gonna put legs together. Isn't that exciting? So we're gonna put the front and back together. I'm gonna start with the out seam where my pocket is. Starting at the waist, matching up my seam allowances. I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so... Oh, my machine's not on. Okay, so I can feel that I'm really close to the opening of my pocket bag here, okay? I'm pulling it open just a little because I don't want it to warp the fabric. And I'm continuing. The point is to miss the fabric in the pocket opening as you sew the entire length of the side seam. That way it's an opening. Side seam, and let's check the pocket. Pocket check, pocket check. Guys, it opens. Let's go to the iron. Again, on the hand, because of the hip curve. Back to the leg, we're gonna do the inseam. 1/2 inch seam allowance. And stitch the length. Guys, a pant leg. Yippee! This is a sleeve board. Except today, it's gonna be a leg board. It allows you to get into like a tube shape, specifically sleeves, to press any seams. So I'm using this to get inside the leg to press the inseam. It's looking pretty cool so far. So let's do the other leg. So now what we have to do is stitch down the pocket bag into the waist. And while we're here, since I forgot to do this earlier, we really should have done this in the prepping. There's a pleat. Can you see that? The little notches up there? Yeah, see that? So we're gonna match the notch to notch. The seam allowance is gonna go towards the center front. Getting my arm right in the camera. At a 1/4 inch, I'm just gonna put a little stitch. So now that'll hold the pleat. And then while I'm here, back up, come look what I'm doing. I'm lying my leg as flat as I can. Since I have the pleat in it, I'm gonna pull across the hip to inseam to try and flatten it. I'm gonna pin the edge of my pocket bag onto the waist, so that this way I can open my stuff and not have it move much. And again, 1/4 inch basting stitch across the top. And I went through the pleat again because why not? So now that won't move when we go and sew the waistband on. And now I'm gonna do it on the other leg. So now, this is part of the reason I should have put the pleat in earlier. So I have a notch, there it is, down here at the hem. Hard to see, but it's there. And then there's my fold at the top. So this notch down here is a continuation of the line on the one side of the pleat. So I want to press, okay, I don't need that. What I actually want to do, isn't that fun? I almost did it wrong. That's not how we press it. I forgot. That's not how you press the pleat. I'm holding that fold, the pleat, or the notch at this end, and then the fold of the pleat at this end. And that's literally it. It's just on the half. So while that cools, actually, I'm gonna do the other leg. Okay, we're gonna stitch the crotch seam up until I have, this is my little zipper notch. Probably can't see it, but I have a notch where I want my zipper to end at the back. So the way I'm gonna do this, I have one leg inside out and the other leg right side out. And I'm gonna put the right side out inside the inside out. Are you following? So now I have a little leg tube. I still want right sides together, and I'm gonna line up the inseams and pin it. Ouchie, stabbed myself. I need more pins. I'm gonna find my back notch, pin that. I'm also gonna pin the top of center back so it's not flipping around. It's much easier now to flatten it on the machine to sew it. So let's sew. Again, 1/2 inch seam allowance. I literally put a 1/2 inch seam allowance on basically everything because I don't want to think about it. I just want it to be easy. The standard in the fashion industry is to do 3/8, most places, like curves, 1/2 inch anywhere else. Usually, that's too much effort for me. So we're doing a 1/2 inch everywhere. Okay, this is my back notch. So we're gonna stop there. So technically now I should put the zip in, but because I've messed around with these pants, I'm gonna try them on and make any alterations. I want it to sit like there. They aren't falling, they're going nowhere. They fit perfect. I've made my alterations on the pants and the waistband, and I didn't film any of it because it's repetitive. But now with everything fixed, we're gonna put in our little zipper. My zipper is far too long. I only need like 8 inches, maybe 10 max. So this is far too much, but I'm gonna cut it. This is also an invisible zipper. So I need to switch my foot to an invisible zipper foot. I'm gonna mark a 1/2 inch down because once again, all my seam allowances are 1/2 inch. And I want my zipper to end below the seam allowance for the waist. So I'm marking my seam allowance down. I'm gonna start on the left side the left of my zipper, I'm gonna put wrong side up. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there's the little stopper. So I'm gonna place that just like 1/8 of an inch down. And I'm gonna place it 1/2 inch in. And I'm pulling the teeth open for the foot to hold it open. And I'm flipping the pants inside out because I forgot to in the first place. So now, this way it is easier to mark where the zipper needs to line up, needs to sit to line up. With the other side of the zipper, I am using the other side of the little holes on this, but doing the exact same thing. Opening the teeth. Okay. I gotta stick the zipper head through and then pull this up. Okay, got it. And now to finish up, I have all this extra zipper. It's like poking out the bottom of the leg. So this is all the extra zipper I have and I don't need. So I'm gonna cut, what's that, like 1.5 inches? Something like that, maybe a little less, like 1 inch. And I'm going to fold the zipper tape like this and stitch across there. Just in case the zipper head falls below, it won't fall off, because if it falls off, we got a real problem. Stitching on top of zipper teeth is a bad idea, but these are plastic zipper teeth, so it's not terrible. It's not good, it's just not terrible. So I'm literally hand cranking it to prevent the needle from hitting the teeth wrong and snapping, or worse, breaking the machine. Opening my seam allowance and straightening my zipper tape. I'm just gonna put a little stitch in the zipper tape, only through the seam allowance. Through the seam allowance and the zipper tape only, just so that when I go to pull the zipper head up, all of this doesn't also pull. So I'm just going to do both sides of the zipper tape. And this is below where the end of the zipper is in the seam allowance. Let's see this zipper in action. There's the bottom. Yeah. Pretty slay. Okay, onto the waist. So we're gonna set those aside for a second. And we're moving to the waistband. We're gonna put on the belt loops. I'm only gonna do 2 belt loops, 1 on either side seam. Actually, I have enough for 3, so I'm actually gonna do 3. I want the outer waistband, which is the one with the fusible in it. I'm just gonna pin on top of the seam line, and I'm putting a little bit of space, like ease, putting a little bit of ease basically into the waistband so that like you can fit a thicker belt or something through there. Same this side. So I plan on, there is an extension on both sides of my waistband because I was being lazy when I cut it. So this side, this is my right side, is gonna end directly on center back. Okay, so that's my center back fold. So I'm gonna place this one just over a teeny tiny bit from center back and pin that the same as the other two. And then I'm just gonna open this back. See? Don't need this foot. And I'm just gonna stitch to hold the belt loops down. Now with our belt loops in place, we're gonna get this the right way around, and we're gonna just bag out the top and sides of the waist. On this side where I put the belt loop, because this is gonna be where I want it to end at center back exactly with no extension, I am going to match my notches, which I didn't mark the toe off, which was dumb, but I know it's 2 inches. There's my center back line. Ooh. On this side, the side with the extension, I'm going to bag out the bottom up until there's my little center back notch. Up until the center back notch. This way, I don't have to go around and do anything fancy after I attach it onto the waistband. Now, with the waistband stitched, I'm gonna get rid of the excess seam allowance. So I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm basically taking it down to 1/4, and I'm chopping the corners so that the corners will be less bulky when I flip it. I should have clipped these, but I'm not gonna now. I'm gonna flip this right side out. I want to fold it so that the outside layer, the layer with the fusing on it, rolls over just a teeny tiny bit. This way we won't see the facing. That's what a contoured waistband looks like, by the way. It's kind of C-curve. I like to now, on the facing side, this is the inside, fold up about a 1/2 inch, a little bit less. Actually, I've given myself extra seam allowance on this side, so I'm folding about a 1/2 inch up and just giving it a press, because the way we're gonna attach it to the waist of the legs, only the outer layer is getting sewn to the body. After that's attached, pretend with me for a second, that's getting attached like that. So then we are gonna stitch in the ditch, and we need to catch the inside layer as we stitch in the ditch. So I like a little bit hanging down from our 1/2" seam allowance so that there's less of a chance I miss. So on my outer fabric, or my outer side of the waistband, I have my little notch that marks my center front, so I need pins. We're matching center front notch to center front seam, and then to the side seam, matching those, doing my best to match it at least, since I put the belt loop directly on top. I'm folding back on my seam allowance because I don't need it to stick out. I want everything to end on center back. You guys should use as many pins as you want. I am a crazy person and I use minimalist pins because I live life on the edge. On the other side of the back, this is the side with our extension. See our extension where it's nice and clean on 3 sides. I'm again keeping on the leg, keeping the center back seam allowance in. I'm matching it up with the edge. Hang on. I need to snip this better. I need to snip almost all the way down to my seam line. Yeah, so now my seam allowance is coming out. So apparently I didn't do a 1/2" seam allowance here. That's okay. So I'm just matching the center backs up. Waistband pinned, so now we're gonna stitch that on. As I stitch this, I'm doing my best to keep the 2 layers of waistband open because I do not want to catch any of my facing waistband fabric underneath the stitch. And again, I'm going to trim all the seam allowance because the waist is curved, so having all that bulk of seam allowance is just going to make it sit bad and ugly, and we don't want that. So again, basically halving the seam allowance. Okay, actually we're going to go back to the iron. What I'm going to do is pull it like this and press the seam allowance up into the waistband. Just a light little press. The goal is just to make it face upwards. So on the inside, all our seam allowance is already folded up into the waistband. So on the outside, we're gonna stitch in the ditch. So it kind of is exactly what it sounds like. It's a skill that takes a lot of practice. I'm not very good at it. But the point is to stitch like literally inside the seam between the waist and the pants. The point of it is basically so that it almost becomes invisible. Technically you can just edge, like, it's a design detail if you want to edge stitch on the waistband. Literally take it slow, and I'm literally stitching. I'm pulling this open so that the needle can actually access, like, in between in the seam. Going over the belt loops is hard because there's so much fabric. Okay, twisted. Don't, oh man, that's bad. See that? I'm holding it at the side seams and it's caving and twisting in the front. And I can see the drag lines are pulling that way, so that means my fabric needs to scooch all that direction. So what I need to do, I think, is open from here all the way at the least to this side seam, probably further. And I'm gonna have to push all that back over and match center front and then the sides again, and just do it again. Let's see if I fixed the problem. Yeah, look, I'm holding it by the side seams again. No pulling, no drag lines, no sagging. This is what a waistband should look like. On the hem, there are 3 notches in here. This is my hemline and the fold in the middle. So I'm gonna fold it at the fold line, matching the 2 hems up. And the same on the other side. And I'm gonna give it a press. Okay, with my pant leg, the right side out again. This makes it easier to get into the circle that is the hem. To be honest, I don't really know what the width of this is. I think it's about 2 inches. And my mom has all this tape on the machine so that she can mark with pencil the new seam allowance that she needs. So I'm kind of just gonna pick one of her lines and follow that. This is kind of my line. And I'm going literally just as far as I can get without twisting the fabric too much because of I'm in like a tight space. A leg hole is a tight space to be sewing in. This way also is great for doing sleeves. Sleeve hems and stuff, which is even smaller usually. And back tack at the end, not the beginning, because it's a circle. There's our little stitch line. And we're gonna give it a little cuff. No. I'm gonna mark a quarter or a half inch down for my seam allowance. A half inch down and fold on there on my side seams, keeping them lined up. What I'm gonna do now, I want this little cuff never to fall down. So, more stitching in the ditch. I'm matching the seam allowance to continue on the fold. I'm literally stitching in the ditch again to hide a stitch that's gonna hold the little cuff up the leg. So now, even after like washing the pants and everything, this cuff will never come up. Okay, the very last thing to press basically. The smart thing to do would be mark like a half inch down from the sewn line to fold it, but I'm not going to do that. You guys should do that. I'm going off vibes. So just continuing. This is 1.5 inches, and I'm just pressing it into place. We're gonna put my pocket on. So I put my shorts on to get like a rough placement of the pocket, but then I realized, and this is totally by coincidence, look, the camera can barely even tell. My pattern matches perfectly. Literally perfect. I'm gonna stick this in the sleeve board to make it a little easier. So I'm working kind of to pattern match. Now pattern match this side first. On this side, okay, I'm going across the bottom, pinning across the bottom, but then also still trying to pattern match as best I can. But up here, I need some ease in the pocket to make it easier for my phone to get in and out. I like to keep pop sockets on my phone, so it makes my phone even thicker than it should be. So like literally pushing the pocket into itself, just like a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch. Yeah, see that little bit of extra that's sitting up? That's what I want. My phone with my pop socket. It's not gonna fit because of how I pinned it, but it gets in a little bit easier because of all the ease at the top. I'm gonna put a little triangle with the widest point at the very top of the pocket, because when you have stuff in it, it puts a lot of stress like that. So having that extra space that the stitch is holding up at the top will ease the stress on the seam. Just starting at the bottom of that hemline, stitching across that top stitch line, across the little top here, just down the edge with like a 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch. So an 1/8 of an inch from the folded edge, but a 1/4 inch from the first stitch line we did. Now on the other side of the pocket, I'm going to do the same thing, build that little triangle, go up to the top, across to the first stitch line, and then spin to get the angle across back the edge. There we go. We're gonna do the hand sewing on the waistband of the pants. I'm using a pant closure, which is this. It's a hook and bar on the side that is flush down center back, right? My hook is gonna go directly on center back. The edge of it is almost flush with the side, with the center back. I'm gonna start on this hole over here. And what I'm doing is called a buttonhole stitch. I'm gonna go through my fabric and through the hole, and I'm only gonna pull it most of the way through, not all the way. And now I'm gonna pull it back through that little loop that I left. That creates a little knot. 3 of the buttonhole stitches on each hole, with the middle one, the second button stitch, I'm gonna go all the way through all the fabric, leaving the loop, going back through the other side, through the hole, and through the loop, and then one more, only going through some of the fabric. There's 2 little holes here, and I want to hook my thread around it to force the hook to hold down in the center. There's our little thing. And now I'm gonna zip up the back and match up center back. Okay. With it closed, I'm gonna pull it back and I can see the little hook. So what I'm gonna do is put a pin through a little bit of the fabric and then through the bar and try to pin it on the other side. So now when I pull it, I want to, yeah. So now I've created like a fake bar to hook onto so that I can test where my hook placement is. So it looks good. So the pin marks my bar, so I'm gonna put my bar up against it, and I'm marking this side of the bar with the side with the pin, and on the bar I'm gonna do 5 stitches.